Tuberculosis drug jumps 2,000%, shocks doctors. Frontline tuberculosis doctors in Canada were recently sticker shocked that the price of an essential medication for drug-resistant TB, this is from the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation's news, CBC News, went through the roof for no apparent reason. This is a drug used to treat both tuberculosis and toxoplasmosis. Toxoplasmosis is a parasite that's pretty ubiquitous in cats. And if pregnant women get it and their children get it, particularly in utero, it can cause developmental problems. And it's been associated with mental illness in adults. Apparently it's a parasite that even burrows into the brain, although most people are not affected by it, so don't get too hysterical about cats. But for somebody who's got a toxoplasmosis infection, which is mostly little children and people with AIDS who have compromised immune systems or who are on immunosuppressive drugs because they've had a transplant or because they just have a hyperactive immune system and they're, it's just ripping up their body. They've got colitis or Crohn's disease or what, there's a whole variety of things where they use immunosuppressive drugs to tamp them down. This is all those people are vulnerable to toxoplasmosis and TB for that matter. That's why you'll see on some of these ads on TV for these immunosuppressive drugs, they'll say, and let your doctor know if you've been anywhere where there's active tuberculosis. Yeah, right. So anyhow, if you were, the drug to treat it just went up like crazy. Here's what the CEO, this guy's a former hedge fund manager. This drug was developed back in the 60s by Lilly. They gave it to a nonprofit group. The nonprofit group then sold it to this guy. And here he is.
Why was it necessary to raise the price of Daraprim so drastically?
Well, it depends on how you define so drastically, because the drug was unprofitable at the former price. So any company selling it would be losing money. And at this price, it's a reasonable profit, not excessive at all.
Right. That was Martin Shkreli, I think it's pronounced, S-H-K-R-E-L-I. The guy that I demo over at DU says is the most hated man on the internet. Daraprim, a 62-year-old drug used for treating life-threatening parasitic infections in babies and AIDS patients, raised the price overnight from $13.50 a tablet to $750 a tablet. And then, speaking of this guy that you just heard, this former hedge fund manager, the company he founded in 2009 sued Shkreli last month for $65 million in damages, claiming the ex-hedge fund manager gave away Retrofin shares to friends and used the biotech firm's assets to pay off personal debts and keep afloat his sinking investment firm, MSMB Capital. So, surprise! A sociopathic hustler takes over a drug company and jacks the price up from $13 a pill to $750 a pill, and then says nothing to worry about. Don't worry, no droids in this car. So Hillary Clinton comes out, and good on her. She's got a substantial bully pulpit, and she sent out a tweet. She said, "Price gouging like this in the specialty drug market is outrageous. Tomorrow I'll lay out a plan to take it on." And this from David Crow in New York, writing in the Financial Times. The tweet sent the NASDAQ biotech index down by almost 5% in New York trading. Shares in Valeant, a Canadian pharmaceutical group that has a reputation for implementing steep price hikes, fell by 5.4%. Then they note, this was not the headline anywhere. In August, Bernie Sanders, the Vermont senator who is running against Mrs. Clinton for the Democratic nomination, wrote to Valeant asking why it had sharply raised the price of two heart drugs after acquiring them last year. I'm guessing he hasn't gotten an answer yet. On the day it secured the rights to the drug, Valeant hiked the price of a vial of Isuprel more than sixfold from $1,300, to $1,346 a vial, while tripling the price of Nitropress to $805. Shares in Biogen, which makes a multiple sclerosis drug that costs roughly $55,000 a year, fell by 5.6%, while Alexion, which makes a drug for rare blood disorders that costs roughly $500,000 per patient, their stock fell 3.6%. And Gilead, often seen as the poster child for high drug prices because of their $1,000 a day hepatitis C pills, fell by 2.5%. That's amazing. So, this is clearly price gouging. And you wonder, at what point do we say, pharmaceutical companies that operate in the United States should not be for-profit corporations. They should be not-for-profit corporations. Not-for-profit corporations are very effective at doing what they do. I don't know if Kaiser Permanente is still not-for-profit, but it certainly was for years and years. Blue Cross Blue Shield was not-for-profit for years and years. There's lots of nonprofit organizations. And the thing about a nonprofit organization is that their first job is not to make a profit, but to make a product or a service. And if these pharmaceutical companies, instead of looking for how can we skim a whole bunch of money off the top from poor sick people and give it to our CEOs and our stockholders, instead of that question being the first question was how do we effectively deliver, reasonably cost drugs to people who are really sick? Things would be quite different. And I think things are starting to change. Stuart Parnell, 61, the ex-owner of the Peanut Corporation of America, would tell you things are starting to change. This guy owned a peanut company. They were making peanut butter, and they were shipping this stuff out knowing that it was contaminated with salmonella, and 9 people died and a whole bunch of people got sick, and he was just sentenced to 28 years in jail. His brother, Michael, who worked as a food broker, was given 20 years in prison. Serious prison time to a CEO for a company that killed people. Well, these pharmaceutical companies, they are killing people by depriving them of these drugs that they can't afford and the insurance companies refuse to pay for. At what point do we say this is wrong? It's either morally wrong and politically stupid, and so we're going to take the steps that Hillary Clinton has outlined and that Bernie Sanders has proposed in legislation. We're going to take those steps so that these companies can't do it anymore. Or alternatively, we're going to say they have to be not-for-profit, any pharmaceutical manufacturing company. Or just put the damn CEOs in jail and give the company the corporate death penalty.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-536-2370.
Prior to 1900, basically every company in America had to first be serving its community and its workers. And if it wasn't, it was given the corporate death penalty.